You're gone and I gotta stay high.
Selby beats Jonathan Barros on points to retain IBF featherweight title. Getty. Selby beat Jonathan Barros on points. The Welshman waltzed to the unanimous decision after coming through an emotional week. Brave Selby, 30, opted to go ahead with the mandatory defense of his IBF crown despite his mum, Frankie, passing away on Tuesday. He said, "If I thought about what happened at home, they would have strapped me up in a straitjacket. I never thought of pulling out. I'm a fighter, it never crossed my mind." There were spots of sloppiness in his display, but his stylish counterpunching was a joy to watch and more than enough to outfox the aggressive Argentine. At times the cool and composed Selby was untouchable as he cutely countered the lunging efforts of Barros, even if the muted Wembley Arena crowd were not enthralled by the spectacle. But one interested spectator was former WBA featherweight Carl Frampton, who was sat ringside. The hope is that the pair can meet later this year in a domestic dust-up, which may have swayed Selby to go ahead with this clash even after the family tragedy. This was a fight that was supposed to take place on the undercard of Frampton's defeat by Leo Santa Cruz at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas in January. But complications over Barros' medical in America forced it to be called off just minutes before they were due to weigh in the day before the bout. Selby was gutted as it was another bump in his career, which has been craving a big fight since he won the IBF belt in 2015. It also ended any hope of facing Frampton this summer, but now that fight can happen with the Welshman free of any mandatory challenges for 12 months. Related articles: Floyd Mayweather has been really rattled by Conor McGregor. Joe Rogan knockout king Anthony Yarde should face Frank Buglioni. Frank Warren Chris Eubank Jr. v Arthur Abraham. Full results from undercard. Selby started confidently against former world champion Barros, who brought plenty of experience to the table with 41 wins in 45 outings, and showed little sign of struggling mentally after what must have been a terrible week for him. The Argentine struggled to slow down Selby, who looked comfortable on the back foot in the early rounds. Barros' jab was his most effective weapon, but when he did manage to land with it, he often found a right coming back his way from the defending champion. There was a scare for Selby in the fifth when he suffered a nasty cut over his right eye following a clash of heads. The Barry native seemed to slow after that, which allowed the challenger to come back into the bout. But the Barry boy soon found his composure again with a good right at the end of the eighth, showing the visiting fighter, who was boss in there and the blood flowing from over his eye was no longer bothering him. A stinging right uppercut followed by a left hook in the ninth ensured Selby was back in full control. The defending champion almost got the stoppage in the last when he floored Barros with a short left hook on the inside. But the Argentine beat the count and Selby had to wait for the cards, which were all in his favor: 119 to 108, 117 to 110 and 117 to 110 as he made the third defense of his IBF title. Selby bumped fists with Frampton as he departed the ring, with the Belfast man paying his respect for the performance and the fact the Welshman went through with the fight after such a tough week. Frampton probably fancies it after that, added Selby. "It's a fight I would absolutely love.